Welcome back. We're still on page number 8 entitled Terminology. Coming down your page, I'd like to also make a note of cap cost reduction. This really is money down. So the capitalized cost on a lease is the amount the customer is paying back. A cap cost reduction or money down is a dollar amount they're putting down up front, which reduces the amount that they're actually having to pay back. It's basically a down payment. Now we have net cap cost. Net cap cost is the actual amount that they're I guess basing their payments on after cap cost reduction or down payment. Now, not on this sheet, there's two other words you need to be aware of. Some things when you initiate a lease we can residualize. And when they allow you to residualize something that's been added on the car, what the lender is basically saying is that they believe that add-on, that thing, whatever they're putting on the vehicle, I'm not going to mention what it is because it's different for every manufacturer, will actually not only increase the value today, so they'll allow you to put it into the cap cost, but they believe the vehicle will have continued value through the term and even at the end. So whatever you're putting on a vehicle and then trying to, I guess, have finance or included in the cap cost on the lease, you have to be able to prove that it not only adds value today, it adds value at the end. And if it adds value in both areas, you can capitalize it and residualize it. By being able to do both, because the payments are based on the difference, if we increase our cap cost and also increase our residual by an amount, it won't have such an impact on the customer's payment. If they'll only allow you to capitalize something and not residualize it, it's going to have a bit more impact on the payment because they're basically saying, yes, you can put it in up front and the customer can make payments on that and borrow against it, but we're not increasing the residual. We don't believe that thing's going to add long-term value at the end of the lease, the 3 or 4 or 5 year term. So it's going to increase the dollar amount up here, not raise the residual. It will impact the customer's payment more than something that can be capitalized and residualized. I hope that makes sense. A closed-end lease. If you want to put a little additional note beside this. A closed-end lease, essentially the customer can close the door and walk away from the car at the end of the term, providing there's no excessive depreciation fees, i.e. mileage or wear and tear. Closed-end lease, close the door and walk away. On an open-end lease, if you want to make a note here, the loan or the dollar amount on the whole amount, including the residual, stays open until the leasing company liquidates the asset or sells the car. So on an open-end lease, if the customer returns the vehicle and has a residual at $10,000, if the leasing company can only get $8,000 for it at auction or selling it to a retail customer or wherever, then the customer will actually get a bill in the mail for $2,000, which they do owe legally. Early termination is any time a lease is scheduled before end of term. I'd like you to write down beside early termination 2 concepts. First concept is this. At any point during the term, 6 months left, 4 months left, 20 months left, a consumer could make all the payments. If they make all the payments up front, they can return the car. The vehicle is then liquidated or sold or whatever else brought back. And whatever happens, depending if it's a closed-end or open-end lease, happens at that point as far as the financial responsibility goes, either just towards the leasing company or maybe towards the lessee. The other way we can early terminate a lease is the vehicle can be returned to the leasing company and then the vehicle sold. At that point, it's as if a vehicle basically came back on a finance contract. If the loan amount or the dollar amount outstanding on the lease is more than the value of the car, there could be a deficit situation. Because the customer did agree to make total payments during the term, that deficit or that loss would be the responsibility of the customer. So when we are terminating leases, one of the things you want to look at is the 2 options financially. What's more feasible and viable for the customer or dealer or leasing company? To just return the car and have the vehicle be sold, depending if the vehicle is worth the dollar amount of the balance of that time, or to just make the remaining payments and return the car after that as well. There's the 2 options when we terminate a lease. When it comes to trade cycle management, it's important that you run those 2 options every time to see what's in the best interest of the consumer and the leasing company. I'm Dwayne. We'll see you as we finish off this page shortly on page number 8 entitled Terminology.